Breaking: nobody saw this coming. Just when the internet thought Lil Durk's legal battle was headed in one direction, the courtroom delivered a twist that has everybody, from fans to critics, hitting refresh. Reports say Durk has reacted to his newly scheduled trial date with one bold message: he's staying confident and believes he's coming home. But that's only the beginning. Behind closed courtroom doors, the prosecution and the defense reportedly battled over key evidence, surprise legal motions, and a strategy that has sparked non-stop debate across the hip-hop world. Some people believe the government is tightening its case, while others say Durk's legal team is quietly scoring major wins that aren't making the headlines. Then came another unexpected twist: a request for house arrest, new arguments from both sides, and fresh courtroom developments that completely changed the conversation online. Meanwhile, social media is asking one question nobody can ignore: where is the industry support? As fans flood comment sections with "free smirk," others are wondering whether this case is about to take another dramatic turn. One thing is certain: this isn't just another celebrity court update. Every new filing seems to raise even bigger questions, and what happened next could completely reshape one of the biggest rap stories of the year. Stay locked in, because the details only get crazier from here. The hip-hop world just woke up to another shocking twist, and this time it has everybody asking the same question: did Lil Durk just get the biggest break of his entire federal case? After a courtroom hearing that insiders are already calling one of the most important moments since his arrest, reports say the Chicago rap superstar is refusing to let the pressure break him. According to people close to the situation, Durk remains confident that his day is coming, even as prosecutors continue pushing one of the biggest criminal cases ever brought against a major rap artist. But here's what has fans paying attention. While headlines focused on another delay in the trial, many people missed what actually happened inside that courtroom. Behind the scenes, lawyers from both sides were fighting over evidence that could completely change how this case is presented to a jury. Some legal analysts believe the defense walked away with several important victories, while others argue the government still holds powerful cards that could become a serious problem once the trial officially begins. Either way, one thing is clear: this story is becoming far more complicated than anyone expected. Now here's where everything starts getting interesting. Instead of looking defeated after learning about another trial delay, Durk reportedly reacted with confidence, sending a message that immediately spread across social media. Fans quickly interpreted the statement as a sign that he still believes he has a real chance of beating the case. That confidence caught many people off guard because federal prosecutions are known for having extremely high conviction rates. Usually, when someone is facing charges this serious, public optimism starts disappearing. But according to supporters, Durk's legal team believes several recent courtroom developments have shifted momentum in ways that weren't obvious from the headlines alone. Whether that confidence is justified remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the conversation surrounding this case changed almost overnight. One of the biggest talking points involves the government's legal strategy. During earlier stages of the case, prosecutors reportedly presented one version of how they believed the alleged conspiracy unfolded. As time passed, however, several filings and courtroom arguments suggested that portions of that theory had changed. Defense supporters immediately pointed to those developments as evidence that prosecutors were adjusting their approach. On the other hand, legal experts noted that federal prosecutors often refine their arguments as additional evidence is reviewed before trial. That means a changing indictment does not automatically indicate weakness. Instead, it may simply reflect an effort to present the strongest possible case to a jury. Still, the defense wasted no time highlighting every adjustment, arguing that consistency matters when someone's future is on the line. Another development that grabbed attention was the request for house arrest. Rather than asking for unrestricted freedom, Durk's attorneys reportedly proposed an extremely strict release plan. According to court filings discussed after the hearing, the proposal included electronic monitoring, constant supervision, and other security measures designed to convince the judge that Durk would not pose a flight risk or violate any release conditions. Supporters immediately celebrated the request as another sign that the defense believes circumstances have changed. Critics, however, reminded everyone that requesting bond and actually receiving it are two very different things. Federal judges weigh multiple factors before granting release, including the seriousness of the allegations and public safety concerns. Even so, the very existence of the request fueled another wave of speculation across the internet. Then came another unexpected twist involving several of Durk's alleged co-defendants. Reports indicate that motions were filed seeking separate trials instead of having every defendant appear together before the same jury. Legal analysts explained that separate trials can significantly change courtroom dynamics because evidence against one individual may not automatically be presented against another. If granted, such motions could force prosecutors to tailor their presentation much more carefully. Supporters immediately argued that this could benefit Durk by reducing the possibility of guilt by association. Others cautioned that severed trials do not eliminate the government's evidence and should not be viewed as a guaranteed advantage. Nevertheless, the development added another layer of uncertainty to an already complicated prosecution. Despite those reported gains for the defense, prosecutors continue pressing forward with confidence. Court proceedings indicate they are still relying on multiple categories of evidence, including witness testimony, electronic communications, financial records, and arguments about motive. Prosecutors have also fought aggressively to preserve evidence they believe helps explain the alleged events surrounding the case. The judge's rulings on those requests have become major discussion points because every decision could influence what jurors eventually see and hear during trial. As both sides continue battling over each piece of evidence, it has become increasingly clear that this will not be a simple courtroom showdown. Instead, every hearing appears to produce another headline, another debate, and another unexpected turn that keeps both fans and legal observers watching every single development. What really intensified the debate after the hearing was the government's continued focus on motive. Prosecutors have argued that events surrounding the death of King Von provide important context for the allegations they intend to present at trial. The judge has reportedly allowed certain evidence connected to those events to be introduced before the jury, a decision that immediately sparked strong reactions online. Supporters of the prosecution argue that jurors deserve to understand the background the government believes led to the alleged conspiracy. Meanwhile, the defense is expected to argue that motive alone is not proof of guilt and that emotional evidence could unfairly influence a jury. That legal battle is likely to become one of the most closely watched moments of the trial because it goes directly to how prosecutors plan to tell their story from opening statements to closing arguments. Another issue generating enormous discussion involves rap lyrics and public interviews. Prosecutors have reportedly argued that certain lyrics and statements made by Durk could be relevant to their theory of the case when viewed alongside other evidence. The defense, however, has strongly opposed that approach, maintaining that artistic expression should not automatically be interpreted as literal conduct or criminal intent. This debate reaches far beyond one artist because many people in the music industry believe using lyrics in criminal proceedings creates dangerous precedent for creative expression. Legal experts note that courts sometimes omit lyrics when they are considered directly connected to alleged criminal conduct, but every case depends on its specific facts and judicial rulings. As a result, this issue has become one of the most controversial aspects of the entire prosecution. At the same time, attention has shifted toward the government's reported witness strategy. Throughout the investigation, there has been widespread speculation that prosecutors may rely on testimony from cooperating witnesses or individuals who reached agreements with investigators. If such witnesses testify, they could provide prosecutors with first-hand accounts supporting the government's narrative. However, defense attorneys routinely challenge cooperating witnesses by arguing that they have personal incentives to receive reduced sentences or favorable treatment. That credibility battle often becomes one of the most important issues in any federal trial because jurors must decide whether those witnesses are telling the truth or acting primarily in their own interest. Until testimony is presented in court and subjected to cross-examination, many of those reported claims remain allegations rather than established facts. Financial evidence has also become a major topic of conversation following reports involving photographs of large amounts of cash. Prosecutors reportedly contend that one widely circulated image supports their broader theory regarding alleged payments connected to the case. Defense supporters quickly pushed back, arguing that possessing or displaying cash does not, by itself, establish criminal activity or prove the government's allegations. Legal analysts point out that photographs generally become much more significant only when prosecutors can connect them with independent evidence such as communications, financial records, witness testimony, or other documented events. Because of that, the image has become another point of disagreement, with both sides expected to present very different interpretations if the case proceeds before a jury. Outside the courtroom, another conversation has been unfolding across social media and within the hip-hop community. Many fans have noticed what they describe as a quieter public response from some artists compared with other high-profile legal cases. While supporters continue posting messages encouraging Durk and expressing hope for a positive outcome, others have questioned whether the music industry rallies around artists consistently during difficult legal battles. Those discussions have fueled countless online debates, with some commentators arguing that private support often differs from public statements made on social media. Others believe the silence reflects how sensitive ongoing federal cases can be, especially when facts are still being litigated in court. Regardless of the explanation, public perception has become another storyline running alongside the legal proceedings themselves. Even questions surrounding Durk's detention conditions have entered the public conversation. Court filings have reportedly challenged aspects of his confinement, with defense attorneys arguing that the restrictions imposed on him have been unusually severe. Those filings have become another element of the broader defense strategy, although detention conditions themselves are legally separate from determining guilt or innocence. Prosecutors, meanwhile, continue focusing on preparing their evidence for trial while opposing requests they believe are inconsistent with the seriousness of the allegations. The judge will ultimately decide many of these procedural disputes, and each ruling has the potential to influence the pace and direction of the case as it moves closer to trial. For now, the biggest reality is that this legal battle remains far from over. Every new hearing seems to produce another headline, another court filing, and another wave of speculation from fans, legal analysts, and commentators across the internet. The defense believes recent developments demonstrate meaningful progress, while prosecutors continue expressing confidence in the strength of their evidence. Until witnesses testify and all admissible evidence is presented in court, many of the most widely discussed claims remain exactly that, claims to be tested through the judicial process. One thing, however, cannot be denied. The Lil Durk case has become one of the most closely followed stories in hip-hop, and every courtroom development is being examined in real time by millions of people waiting to see what happens next. As the legal battle continues, one question keeps surfacing across social media, YouTube, and the hip-hop community: what does all of this mean for Lil Durk's future? That question has become even bigger because every court hearing seems to create two completely different narratives. On one side, supporters argue that the defense has successfully challenged important parts of the government's case and continues finding ways to slow the prosecution's momentum. On the other side, federal prosecutors remain committed to presenting what they believe is a strong collection of evidence built over a lengthy investigation. That contrast has transformed this case into far more than a courtroom dispute. It has become one of the most closely followed stories in modern rap. Every filing, every hearing, and every ruling immediately becomes headline news, fueling debates that stretch far beyond the courtroom itself. Another reason this case continues dominating conversations is the sheer amount of speculation surrounding what prosecutors may still have in reserve. Throughout the investigation, there have been countless rumors about additional evidence, electronic records, witness testimony, and communications that have not yet been presented publicly. While many of those claims circulate widely online, experienced legal analysts continue reminding viewers that courtroom evidence is very different from internet speculation. Federal prosecutors are generally required to prove every element of their allegations with admissible evidence, not simply with rumors or public opinion. Likewise, the defense has the opportunity to challenge every witness, every document, and every interpretation presented by the government. Until that process unfolds in open court, much of the online discussion remains exactly that, discussion rather than proof. What has surprised many observers is how carefully the defense has approached every stage of the proceedings. Instead of making dramatic public statements, the legal team has focused on procedural challenges, evidentiary motions, and arguments concerning what the jury should ultimately be allowed to hear. That strategy reflects the reality of federal criminal litigation, where seemingly small rulings can have significant consequences later in trial. A judge's decision regarding one witness, one document, or one category of evidence can influence how both sides structure their entire presentation. Because of that, every hearing has taken on added importance, even when no final verdict is anywhere close. Meanwhile, fans continue debating another issue that has nothing to do with legal filings but everything to do with public perception. Many supporters have questioned why more high-profile artists have remained relatively quiet throughout the proceedings. Some believe private conversations and behind-the-scenes support may be occurring without public attention. Others argue that artists often avoid commenting on active federal cases because every public statement can be scrutinized or misinterpreted. Whatever the reason, the discussion has highlighted how quickly public alliances appear to shift whenever a major legal case enters the spotlight. For some fans, that silence has become almost as newsworthy as the courtroom developments themselves. Another important factor is the effect this case could have on the broader music industry. Over the last several years, debates surrounding the use of lyrics, social media posts, interviews, and artistic expression in criminal prosecutions have become increasingly common. Supporters of artists argue that creative works should not automatically be viewed as literal confessions, while prosecutors often contend that certain statements may become relevant when considered alongside independent evidence. Courts continue evaluating those questions on a case-by-case basis, meaning the rulings in one high-profile prosecution can influence conversations far beyond a single defendant. Because Lil Durk is one of the biggest names in hip-hop, many industry observers are watching closely to see how those legal issues develop. At the center of everything remains the presumption of innocence, one of the most fundamental principles of the American justice system. Although prosecutors have outlined serious allegations, those allegations must ultimately be proven in court if the case proceeds to trial. The defense, meanwhile, has every opportunity to challenge the government's witnesses, dispute its interpretation of the evidence, and present its own arguments before a jury. That process is exactly why experienced legal analysts caution against drawing final conclusions based solely on headlines, social media posts, or isolated courtroom updates. The complete picture only emerges after both sides have presented all admissible evidence under the rules of the court. For now, the story remains unfinished, and that uncertainty is exactly why millions of people continue following every development so closely. One hearing can change public opinion overnight. One judicial ruling can reshape legal strategy, and one piece of evidence can become the center of national discussion within hours. Whether the defense ultimately secures additional victories or prosecutors strengthen their position as the case moves toward trial, one thing is beyond dispute: the Lil Durk prosecution has become one of the defining legal stories in hip-hop. As new filings continue to emerge and future court dates approach, all eyes will remain fixed on the courtroom, waiting to see whether the next headline delivers another unexpected twist in a case that has already produced more dramatic turns than almost anyone anticipated. Even with months of legal filings and non-stop headlines, the biggest mystery surrounding this case is what will actually happen when the jury finally hears the evidence. That is the moment both sides have been preparing for since the beginning. Prosecutors believe their investigation has produced enough admissible evidence to support the charges they have brought, while the defense maintains that the government's narrative relies too heavily on assumptions rather than proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are two very different positions, and they will eventually collide in open court. Until then, every motion, every hearing, and every ruling simply represents another step toward what could become one of the most closely watched federal trials involving a major recording artist in recent memory. Legal analysts continue pointing out that pretrial hearings often receive far less attention than they deserve. While social media tends to focus on dramatic headlines, experienced attorneys know that many cases are shaped long before opening statements begin. Decisions about what evidence can be introduced, which witnesses may testify, and how prosecutors frame their arguments can dramatically influence the outcome of a trial. That is why every courtroom appearance involving Lil Durk has generated intense discussion among legal observers. A ruling that seems minor to casual viewers can become critically important once jurors begin evaluating the government's case. Because of that, either side is treating these hearings as routine. Every motion is contested, every argument is carefully prepared, and every decision could affect the path forward. The public conversation has also highlighted how quickly narratives can change in the digital age. One day, headlines focus on the prosecution's latest filing. The next day, attention shifts to a defense motion, a judicial ruling, or commentary from legal experts breaking down what happened in court. Within hours, thousands of posts, reaction videos, and live streams begin offering competing interpretations of the same event. That constant cycle makes it increasingly difficult for casual followers to separate verified courtroom developments from online speculation. While many creators provide thoughtful legal analysis, others rely on rumors, anonymous sources, or exaggerated claims that may never appear in any official filing. As a result, viewers are often encouraged to wait for court records and judicial decisions rather than relying solely on viral social media discussions. Another important issue that continues attracting attention is the broader impact this case could have on the relationship between hip-hop and the criminal justice system. For years, artists, attorneys, and advocacy groups have debated whether rap lyrics, music videos, interviews, and online posts should be introduced as evidence in criminal trials. Supporters of artists argue that performers frequently create fictional characters or exaggerated stories as part of their music. Prosecutors, however, sometimes contend that specific statements become relevant when they closely align with independent evidence collected during an investigation. Courts evaluate those questions individually, balancing evidentiary rules against concerns about fairness and prejudice. Because Lil Durk is such a high-profile figure, every ruling in this case is being closely watched by both the legal community and the music industry. At the same time, fans remain focused on what happens outside the courtroom. Many continue supporting Durk's music, revisiting his catalog, and discussing how this legal battle could affect his career regardless of the final outcome. Others believe the case serves as a reminder of how quickly success can be overshadowed by serious legal challenges. Industry observers have noted that prolonged criminal proceedings often interrupt recording schedules, touring opportunities, business partnerships, and promotional campaigns. Even before a verdict is reached, an artist's career can change significantly simply because of the uncertainty surrounding an ongoing prosecution. That reality explains why so many people continue monitoring every court appearance and every new filing. Looking ahead, the next stage of the proceedings will likely focus on additional pretrial motions, scheduling matters, and continued disputes over evidence before any jury is selected. Both sides are expected to refine their arguments while preparing witnesses and organizing the material they intend to present in court. Prosecutors will continue attempting to demonstrate that the available evidence supports their allegations, while the defense will challenge both the credibility and the interpretation of that evidence wherever possible. Those legal battles are a normal part of the American judicial process, especially in complex federal cases involving multiple defendants and extensive investigations. For now, the only certainty is that the story is still unfolding. Every hearing has produced new questions, every filing has generated fresh debate, and every courtroom development has been examined from every possible angle. Until the legal process reaches its conclusion, claims from either side remain subject to testing through evidence, cross-examination, and judicial review. That is ultimately how the justice system is designed to work. Whether the coming months strengthen the prosecution's position, reinforce the defense's arguments, or introduce entirely new developments, millions of people will continue watching closely. This case has already become one of the biggest legal stories in hip-hop, and the next chapter will almost certainly attract just as much attention as everything that has happened so far. And that's where we're going to leave this story for now, but something tells me this case is far from over. Every single court hearing seems to bring another unexpected twist, another legal filing, and another debate that completely changes the conversation. Whether you believe Lil Durk's legal team is gaining momentum, or you think the federal prosecutors still have the stronger case, one thing is undeniable. This trial is shaping up to be one of the biggest hip-hop courtroom battles in recent memory. As always, the final outcome will depend on what is actually presented and proven in court, and we'll be following every development as it happens. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Lil Durk's defense is building real momentum? Or do you believe the prosecution still has enough evidence to secure a conviction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because this is one of those stories where every opinion brings a different perspective. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more in-depth rap news, exclusive courtroom updates, industry drama, and the biggest stories surrounding your favorite artists, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a breaking update. We post the latest rap news, legal developments, and viral industry stories as soon as they happen, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Share this video with a friend who follows hip-hop news, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.